What if the moment you stopped explaining yourself was the exact moment your life started changing? Think about it. How much energy have you wasted trying to convince people who already decided not to understand you? How many dreams have been delayed because you were busy defending your choices instead of living them? The strongest people in the world don't argue, justify, or beg for approval. They simply move. And today, you're going to discover why walking away without warning is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect you'll ever learn. Most people believe they are explaining themselves because they want others to understand them. But if we're honest, there is often something much deeper happening beneath the surface. Many explanations are actually silent requests for approval. They are attempts to gain acceptance, avoid criticism, or receive reassurance that we are making the right choice. The problem is that when your confidence depends on someone else's approval, you give away control of your life. Instead of moving forward with conviction, you become trapped in a cycle of waiting for permission from people who may never fully support your vision. Think about how often this happens. Someone decides they want to start a business, and before taking the first real step, they begin explaining their idea to everyone around them. They tell friends, family members, co-workers, and even strangers. When someone questions the idea, they immediately start defending it. They explain why it will work, why they are qualified, and why they think it is the right decision. Days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. They become so focused on convincing others that they never actually build the business. Their energy is spent on arguments instead of action. Now imagine another person with the same dream. They decide what they want, create a plan, and begin working quietly. They don't spend hours seeking opinions. They don't feel the need to defend every decision. Instead, they use that energy to learn new skills, solve problems, and take consistent action. Months later, while others are still talking about possibilities, they have already created results. The difference isn't intelligence or talent. The difference is that one person was chasing approval while the other was building progress. The truth is that people who constantly seek validation often do so because they fear being wrong. They want someone else to confirm that their path is safe. But no great achievement in history came with a guarantee. Every successful entrepreneur, athlete, artist, and leader had moments when they had to trust themselves before anyone else believed in them. If they had waited for universal approval, they would have never started. One of the greatest mindset shifts you can make is understanding that approval and understanding are not the same thing. Someone can understand your decision and still disagree with it. Someone can support you and still think you're making a mistake. And sometimes the people closest to you won't see your vision at all. That doesn't mean your vision is wrong. It simply means they are viewing your future through the limits of their own experiences. Many people waste years trying to make everyone comfortable with their choices. They explain why they left a relationship. They explain why they changed careers. They explain why they moved to a new city. They explain why they started pursuing a dream. Yet no matter how many explanations they provide, someone always has another question, another criticism, or another doubt. Eventually, they discover a powerful truth. People who are determined not to understand you will never be convinced by explanations. Confidence grows when you stop asking others to approve of your decisions and start proving them to yourself through action. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-trust becomes stronger. Every time you take action despite uncertainty, your confidence expands. Real confidence is not built by hearing people say, "I believe in you." It is built by looking back at your own actions and knowing that you followed through. The next time you feel the urge to explain every detail of your plans, pause for a moment and ask yourself an important question. Am I sharing information, or am I secretly asking for permission? That single question can reveal more about your mindset than you realize. If you're waiting for everyone to approve before you move forward, you'll remain stuck. But if you're willing to trust yourself and act without needing validation, you'll discover a level of freedom that most people never experience. Your life begins to change the moment you stop seeking approval and start pursuing your purpose. The world doesn't reward the people who explain the most. It rewards the people who execute. So stop wasting your energy trying to convince everyone around you. Use that energy to build the future you want. In the end, your results will speak louder than any explanation ever could. One of the biggest mistakes people make is believing that success comes from saying the right things. They think if they can explain their goals clearly enough, talk confidently enough, or convince enough people of their potential, success will eventually follow. But life doesn't work that way. The world is full of people with impressive plans, exciting ideas, and ambitious dreams. What separates winners from everyone else is not what they say. It's what they do. Actions have a power that words can never match. Anyone can talk about getting in shape, but only consistent exercise creates a strong body. Anyone can say they want financial freedom, but only disciplined habits create wealth. Anyone can dream about success, but only action turns dreams into reality. This is why successful people often become quieter as they grow. They understand that talking about progress and actually making progress are two very different things. Think about a person who decides to transform their life. They announce their goals to everyone around them. They tell friends they're going to lose weight, start a business, wake up early, read more books, and become more productive. For a short time, they feel motivated because people praise their ambitions. But after the excitement fades, reality arrives. The early mornings become difficult. The workouts become uncomfortable. The business faces obstacles. The discipline required feels harder than expected. Slowly, their actions stop matching their words. Now imagine someone else who chooses a different path. They don't make announcements. They don't seek applause before they've earned it. Instead, they quietly wake up early, work on their goals, and stay consistent. Day after day, they continue showing up, even when nobody is watching. Months later, people suddenly notice the change. The results seem surprising to others, but they are simply the outcome of countless actions repeated over time. The reason actions matter so much is because they reveal the truth. Words can be exaggerated, promises can be broken, intentions can change, but actions expose who a person really is. If someone says they value their health but never exercise, their actions reveal the truth. If someone says they want success but constantly avoid hard work, their actions reveal the truth. What you repeatedly do matters far more than what you repeatedly say. This lesson becomes especially important when people doubt you. Many individuals waste enormous amounts of energy trying to convince critics that they are capable. They argue with doubters. They defend their plans. They explain why they will succeed. But the truth is that arguments rarely change minds. Results do. When someone tells you that your dream is impossible, you don't need to enter a debate. You don't need to write a long explanation or prove your worth through words. The best response is focused action. Every hour spent defending your potential is an hour that could have been invested in developing it. Instead of explaining why you can succeed, spend that time becoming successful. History provides countless examples of this principle. Many successful people were doubted before they achieved greatness. Their ideas were criticized. Their abilities were questioned. Their visions were mocked. Yet they didn't spend years trying to convince everyone. They spent years working. Eventually, their results became impossible to ignore. What once seemed unrealistic became reality because they focused on execution rather than validation. There is also a psychological benefit to taking action instead of talking about it. Action builds confidence. Every small step forward creates evidence that you are capable. Every challenge overcome strengthens your belief in yourself. Confidence doesn't appear because you think positively. Confidence grows because you repeatedly prove to yourself that you can handle difficult things. The most powerful thing you can do when pursuing a goal is to shift your focus away from what people think and toward what you are doing. Ask yourself each day, what action did I take today that moved me closer to my goal? That question matters far more than whether someone supports you, understands you, or believes in you. At the end of your life, people won't remember the promises you made. They will remember the impact you created. Your future won't be shaped by your intentions alone. It will be shaped by the actions you take consistently, especially when motivation disappears and nobody is cheering for you. Success belongs to those who continue working when talking would be easier. So stop worrying about convincing people. Stop trying to prove yourself through endless explanations. Let your efforts speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your results speak. Because in the end, actions don't just speak louder than words. They are the only thing that truly counts. One of the most liberating truths you will ever learn is that not everyone is meant to understand your journey. Many people spend years feeling frustrated, hurt, and disappointed because they expect understanding from everyone around them. They want friends, family members, co-workers, and even strangers to see their vision exactly as they do. They want others to understand their choices, support their goals, and appreciate their growth. But the reality is that every person views life through the lens of their own experiences, fears, beliefs, and limitations. Because of this, expecting universal understanding is setting yourself up for unnecessary disappointment. Think about someone who decides to completely change their life. Maybe they leave a secure job to start a business. Maybe they begin a difficult fitness journey. Maybe they walk away from a toxic relationship. Maybe they decide to pursue a dream that seems unrealistic to everyone around them. To them, the decision feels necessary. They know the pain they've experienced, the lessons they've learned, and the vision they carry in their heart. But to others, the decision may seem confusing, risky, or even foolish. The problem is not that one side is right and the other is wrong. The problem is that people can only understand a journey they have experienced themselves. If someone has never taken a major risk, they may not understand why you're willing to leave your comfort zone. If someone has never fought for a dream, they may not understand why you're sacrificing so much. If someone has never experienced personal growth, they may not understand why you've changed. Imagine trying to explain the feeling of standing on top of a mountain to someone who has never climbed one. You can describe the view, you can explain the struggle, you can talk about the exhaustion and the reward, but no matter how detailed your explanation is, they will never fully understand it until they experience it for themselves. Life works the same way. Some experiences cannot be understood through words alone. They must be lived. Many people unknowingly delay their own progress because they are waiting for everyone around them to understand. They hesitate before making important decisions because they fear judgment. They keep explaining themselves over and over, hoping that eventually everyone will approve. But there comes a point when you must realize that your life cannot be controlled by other people's level of understanding. The people around you may genuinely care about you and still fail to understand your path. Sometimes their doubts come from love. They worry because they want you to be safe. They question your decisions because they fear you might get hurt. While their intentions may be good, their perspective is still limited by their own experiences. If you allow their fears to become your reality, you may never discover what you're truly capable of achieving. One of the greatest signs of maturity is learning to move forward without constant validation. It means accepting that some people will support you, some will question you, and some will never understand you at all. None of those reactions should determine your direction. Your responsibility is not to manage everyone's opinion. Your responsibility is to stay committed to your purpose. As you grow, you'll also notice something interesting. The people who once doubted you often begin to understand your choices only after they see the results. What seemed strange at the beginning suddenly makes sense when success appears. What seemed risky starts looking courageous. What seemed impossible starts looking obvious. But if you had waited for their understanding before taking action, those results would never have existed in the first place. True confidence comes from trusting your path even when it feels lonely. It comes from continuing to move forward when nobody is clapping, cheering, or fully understanding what you're trying to achieve. Some chapters of your life will be misunderstood. Some decisions will be criticized. Some dreams will be questioned. That is part of the process. The moment you stop demanding understanding from everyone is the moment you become emotionally free. You stop carrying the burden of constantly explaining yourself. You stop wasting energy trying to convince people who cannot see what you see. Instead, you focus that energy on growth, action, and progress. Remember this: not everyone is meant to understand your journey because your journey was not created for everyone. It was created for you. The people who are meant to walk beside you will eventually understand. The people who don't may never understand at all. Either way, your mission remains the same. Keep moving forward, keep growing, and keep trusting the path that feels right to your soul. Your future depends far more on your willingness to continue than on anyone else's ability to understand. One of the most powerful lessons a person can learn is that walking away is not a sign of weakness. It is often a sign of strength. Many people spend years believing that staying, enduring, and constantly fighting for unhealthy situations makes them strong. They think that if they just explain themselves one more time, give one more chance, or tolerate one more disappointment, things will eventually change. But there comes a point when holding on causes more damage than letting go. There comes a point when walking away becomes an act of self-respect. The reason so many people struggle to leave unhealthy situations is because they become emotionally attached to potential rather than reality. They focus on what a relationship could become, what a friendship used to be, or what a situation might turn into someday. Instead of looking at what is actually happening, they become trapped by hope. While hope can be powerful, it can also become dangerous when it keeps you stuck in places that consistently drain your energy and happiness. Think about a person who remains in a toxic relationship. They repeatedly communicate their needs. They explain how they feel. They try to fix problems through endless conversations, yet the same patterns continue. The disrespect remains. The dishonesty remains. The emotional exhaustion remains. At some point, another explanation is no longer a solution. It becomes a form of self-betrayal. When someone continually shows you through their actions that they are unwilling to change, believing their promises instead of their behavior only prolongs your suffering. The same principle applies to friendships. Sometimes people outgrow each other. Sometimes friendships become one-sided, where one person constantly gives while the other constantly takes. You may spend months or even years trying to make the relationship work. You may explain your feelings, lower your expectations, and continue offering chances. But if the effort is never reciprocated, staying only teaches others that your boundaries can be ignored without consequences. Many people fear walking away because they worry about being judged. They fear appearing selfish, cold, or uncaring. They worry about what others will think. But protecting your peace does not make you selfish. Choosing your well-being does not make you cruel. Setting boundaries does not make you heartless. In fact, one of the most important forms of self-love is recognizing when something is harming your mental, emotional, or personal growth, and having the courage to leave. There is also a misconception that every ending requires closure. Movies and television often portray dramatic final conversations where everything is explained and resolved. Real life is often different. Sometimes closure never comes. Sometimes the other person refuses to understand. Sometimes they deny responsibility. Sometimes they continue the same behavior despite countless discussions. Waiting for perfect closure can keep you trapped indefinitely. The truth is that closure often comes from within. It comes from accepting reality instead of fighting it. It comes from recognizing that not every chapter needs a perfect ending before you can start a new one. Sometimes the healthiest decision is simply deciding that you have endured enough. Walking away is not about revenge. It is not about teaching someone a lesson or making them suffer. When done correctly, it is about choosing peace over chaos. It is about refusing to sacrifice your future for situations that no longer serve your growth. It is about understanding that your energy is limited and deciding to invest it where it can actually create something meaningful. The strongest people are not those who tolerate endless disrespect. The strongest people are those who know their worth and refuse to compromise it. They understand that every day spent in the wrong environment is a day stolen from the life they could be building. They realize that staying in unhealthy situations out of fear only delays the opportunities waiting on the other side of courage. As you grow, you will learn that some doors must be closed quietly. Not every departure requires an announcement. Not every decision needs a lengthy explanation. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is simply removing yourself from places where your value is not recognized. Your absence often communicates what your words never could. Life becomes lighter when you stop forcing what is no longer meant for you. You gain clarity when you stop fighting battles that cannot be won. You create space for healthier relationships, better opportunities, and greater peace when you release what continually drains you. Walking away may feel painful in the moment, but staying where you are constantly diminished is far more painful in the long run. The greatest act of self-respect is understanding that you deserve environments that help you grow rather than shrink, relationships that uplift rather than exhaust you, and opportunities that move you forward rather than hold you back. Sometimes strength looks like perseverance, but sometimes strength looks like turning around, walking away without warning, and never looking back. There is a unique kind of strength that most people overlook because it doesn't make noise, demand attention, or seek recognition. It is the strength of silence. In a world where everyone feels pressured to constantly explain, announce, defend, and share every detail of their lives, silence has become a rare form of power. The people who understand this often achieve more, suffer less stress, and maintain greater control over their energy than those who feel the need to constantly tell the world what they are doing. Many people mistake silence for weakness because they associate strength with speaking loudly, winning arguments, and proving points, but true power often appears in the opposite form. It appears when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself to people who have already decided not to understand. It appears when you stop defending every decision and start trusting your own judgment. It appears when your focus shifts from talking about your plans to actually executing them. Think about how much energy people waste every day discussing what they want to do. They tell everyone about their goals. They explain their future plans. They announce every new idea and every upcoming project. For a moment, the attention feels rewarding. The encouragement feels good. But there is a hidden cost. Every conversation consumes mental energy. Every debate steals focus. Every attempt to convince others pulls attention away from the actual work. Successful people often become more private as they grow because they understand something important. Attention is a resource. Just like money, time, and energy, it must be invested wisely. When you constantly share your plans with everyone, you expose yourself to unnecessary opinions, doubts, criticism, and distractions. Some people may support you, but others may project their fears onto you. Before long, your vision becomes crowded with voices that have nothing to do with your goals. Silence protects your focus. It creates space for concentration. Instead of spending hours discussing your future, you spend those hours building it. Instead of arguing with people who doubt you, you use that energy to improve yourself. Instead of reacting emotionally to criticism, you become emotionally invested in progress. This shift alone can completely transform your life. There is also a psychological advantage to silence. When people don't know your every move, they cannot influence your thinking as easily. Their doubts carry less weight. Their opinions have less control over your emotions. You become more connected to your own instincts and less dependent on outside validation. This allows you to make decisions from a place of confidence rather than insecurity. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it creates mystery. Human nature is curious. People naturally wonder about individuals who move quietly and produce results. They become intrigued by those who focus more on action than self-promotion. While others are busy talking about what they intend to do, the silent person is already making progress. When the results finally appear, they seem impressive because they were built away from constant attention and distraction. Consider how many arguments could be avoided if people understood the value of silence. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every insult requires a defense. Not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected. Sometimes the most intelligent response is no response at all. When you stop reacting to every negative comment, you reclaim control over your emotions. You stop allowing other people to dictate where your energy goes. This does not mean becoming distant, cold, or afraid to communicate. Silence is not about avoiding conversations that matter. It is about eliminating conversations that do not. It is about learning the difference between meaningful communication and unnecessary explanation. Wise people know when to speak and when to remain quiet. They understand that words have value, and because of that, they do not waste them carelessly. Many of the greatest transformations happen in silence. Muscles are built through unseen workouts. Businesses are built through countless private hours of effort. Character is developed through struggles that few people ever witness. Growth often occurs far from the spotlight. The strongest foundations are usually created when nobody is watching. When you embrace silence, you begin protecting your most valuable resources: your time, your focus, your peace, and your energy. You stop leaking power through endless explanations and unnecessary debates. You stop seeking approval from people whose opinions cannot build your future. Instead, you direct your attention toward becoming better every day. Eventually, something remarkable happens. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself through words. Your discipline becomes your statement. Your consistency becomes your response. Your results become your explanation. The world may not always hear your plans, but it will eventually see your progress. And in the end, that is far more powerful than any speech you could ever give. Silence is not the absence of strength. It is strength under control, focused on creation rather than justification. And that is why silence creates power. At the center of every confident decision, every bold action, and every meaningful achievement lies one powerful quality: self-trust. Without it, people spend their lives searching for reassurance from others. They constantly ask for opinions, seek approval, and hesitate whenever uncertainty appears. But when you learn to trust yourself, everything begins to change. You stop looking outside for answers and start building confidence from within. Many people believe confidence comes first and action comes second. In reality, it usually works the other way around. Confidence is often the result of repeatedly trusting yourself enough to take action, even when you feel uncertain. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your self-trust grows. Every time you face a challenge instead of avoiding it, you prove to yourself that you are capable. Over time, these small victories create a strong foundation that cannot be shaken by other people's opinions. One reason people struggle with self-trust is because they are afraid of making mistakes. They believe that trusting themselves means always being right, but that is not what self-trust means. Self-trust means believing that even if you make a mistake, you can learn from it, recover, continue moving forward. It is not confidence in perfection. It is confidence in your ability to adapt. Think about the most successful people you admire. They have all faced failure, rejection, and uncertainty. The difference is that they did not allow those experiences to define them. They trusted themselves enough to keep going when others would have quit. They understood that growth requires risk and that every setback contains a lesson. When you begin trusting yourself, you stop feeling the need to explain every decision. You become less concerned with what people think because your direction is no longer controlled by outside opinions. You know your values. You know your goals. And you understand that not everyone needs to agree with your path. This creates a sense of freedom that many people never experience. You become calmer because you are no longer chasing validation. You become stronger because your confidence comes from action rather than praise. You become more focused because your energy is directed toward growth instead of approval. Life changes dramatically when you trust yourself. Opportunities become easier to pursue. Decisions become easier to make. Challenges become easier to face. The noise of other people's expectations begins to fade, and your own voice becomes clearer. In the end, the greatest relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. When you learn to trust that relationship, you unlock a level of confidence, peace, and personal power that no one can take away. That is where true freedom begins.